Dragon King Ivoran Ceth dismissed Camilla Deren while she was still coughing smoke from the palace he had asked her to protect. She did not bend when the fit took her. That was what Sunspire Court noticed first. Not the bloodless pallor beneath the soot in her cheeks, not the way her fingers trembled from 20 years of furnace heat, not the thin cloth she pressed to her mouth until her lungs obeyed her dignity and quieted. They noticed that the glassblower did not bow. General Kael Dornus stood beside the throne dais, in black military bronze, one hand resting on the hilt of his ceremonial fireblade. His face held the grave patience of a man delivering unpleasant truth for the kingdom's good. "Your Majesty," Kael said, "no one disputes Mistress Deren's past service. Every fire-resistant window in this palace bears her skill." Flameglass did not remember faces. It remembered heat made unlawful, smoke forced against draft, dragonfire bent by command seals, doors sealed while flame still breathed. Clean fire passed through it as gold. Betrayal left shadows in the pain, Kael continued. But skill weakens when the body weakens. The replacement panes must be installed before tomorrow's military celebration. Camilla lowered the cloth from her mouth. Her voice came rough, but steady. "My lungs are failing because your palace wanted windows that could survive dragonfire." A few courtiers looked away. Kael did not. "That is precisely the concern," he said gently. "A woman who can no longer breathe through her own furnace cannot be entrusted with glass meant to protect a king." The words moved through the court like polished cruelty. Ivoran sat beneath the ember crown, dark hair tied at the nape, gold eyes unreadable. Dragonfire lived quietly beneath his skin, turning the air around him warm even in the high marble hall. Once, years ago, Camilla had taught him to stand near a furnace without fighting the smoke. Breathe with the heat, not against it, she had told him. He had listened then. He was not listening now. He had never promised love. He had done worse. He had made her believe her work had a home in him. Camilla turned toward him. "Only the new military panes blister under dragonfire. Mine hold," Kael sighed. "The new panes are failing because they sit beside old structural weakness. Her original flameglass is warping. My flameglass has held through 12 siege burns and your brother's funeral pyre." The hall chilled. Ivoran's eyes sharpened. Kael's voice softened at once. "That fire is exactly why we must be cautious. Prince Soren died in an accident the palace glass failed to contain. We cannot risk another royal death because sentiment protects an old craft." Camilla felt the sentence strike the scar no one could see. The night Prince Soren died had lived in the walls ever since. Heat had blackened the west corridor. Smoke had climbed the tower vents wrong. Flameglass had held where ordinary glass should have burst. And still, somehow, a royal door had sealed from the outside. She had found that wrongness years later in heat stains no court officer cared to read. Ivoran looked at her. "You told me the west corridor panes were sound." "They were." "Then why did my brother burn behind them?" The question was not shouted. That made it worse. Camilla's breath caught, but not from smoke this time. Because glass holds fire out. It cannot open a sealed door. Kael's expression tightened by almost nothing. "Majesty, she has said this before. Grief makes patterns where failure is too painful to accept." Camilla faced him. "You call every woman's evidence grief once it costs you command. Amur rose." Ivoran stood. Silence dropped with him. He descended from the dais slowly, every step controlled, every courtier measuring the distance between king and glassblower. He stopped before Camilla, close enough that she could feel the heat beneath his skin. Old memory rose cruelly. His hand braced against her work table, smoke in his hair, asking her how she endured the furnace. "You learn which burns are useful," she had answered. Now he looked at the damage those useful burns had left inside her, and called it weakness. "The palace cannot enter tomorrow's celebration under uncertainty," Ivoran said. Camilla held his gaze. Then, investigate the new glass. I have. No, she said. You asked the general who ordered it. Cale's hand tightened on the fireblade hilt. The court saw. Ivoran saw too. But seeing was not the same as choosing. The Sunspire glass house is removed from royal window service, he said. All Flameglass windows in the celebration halls will be replaced by Kael's approved military panes before sunset. For one heartbeat, Camilla did not understand the pain. Then it arrived. Not sharp, deep, like something built over years had been struck at its foundation. You are taking down my windows, she said. I am protecting the palace. No. Her voice thinned but did not break. You are mistaking the woman who paid for protection with the danger you never investigated. Ivoran's jaw hardened. Good. Let the words mark him. Cale bowed his head. Mistress Deren, your workshop will be compensated. Camilla looked at him. Men always offer coin after they take the thing no coin can replace. She turned before her breath could betray her again. No guard touched her. That would have looked cruel. Courts preferred clean violence. Workers from Cale's military workshop entered with hooked poles and padded crates. One by one, they began removing the Flameglass windows from the western celebration hall. Each pane came free with a low, singing note, as if heat trapped inside it objected to being handled by strangers. Ivoran heard it. Camilla knew he did. He said nothing. At the far end of the hall, one tall window remained untouched. An old pane. Her first palace masterpiece. Fire-clear, slightly uneven, veined with gold from the day Ivoran's own dragonfire had tested it. Sunset struck it. The glass darkened. Not with reflection, with memory. A heat shadow appeared inside the pane. A corridor burning orange, smoke bending the wrong way, a royal door closing from the outside. Then, a man's hand entered the flame-lit image and pressed a bronze command seal against the door latch. The seal bore the bronze command mark of Kael Dornas's military office. Kael did not deny the glass had remembered a seal. He denied that memory could name a murderer. A command office mark, he said, calm enough to make the burning reflection seem rude for appearing. Not a man's hand. During palace fires, emergency seals may be used by captains, wardens, corridor guards, or any officer acting under evacuation law. The heat shadow stayed inside the old Flameglass pane, a burning corridor, smoke bending against the tower draft, a royal door closing from the outside. Camilla stood near the side arch, one hand pressed lightly to her ribs, breathing through the pain as if the court had not spent years benefiting from the lungs it now found inconvenient. Ivoran stared at the pane. His gold eyes did not move. Not to Cale. Not to her. Only to the door in the flame. What exactly can Flameglass remember? He asked. Cale answered before Camilla could. Heat distortion, pressure changes, reflected stress. Mistress Deren herself has admitted old panes carry traces after siege burns. Camilla looked at Ivoran. Ask the woman who made them. A faint ripple moved through the court. Ivoran's jaw tightened. Then he turned to her. What can Flameglass remember? The question should not have hurt. It did because he was asking too late and under witness of fire. Not faces, Camilla said. Not voices, not intent. Her breath scraped, but she kept speaking. It remembers unlawful heat, smoke forced where draft should pull, dragonfire bent by command seals, doors sealed, while flame still breathed on the wrong side. Cale inclined his head. Poetic craft language. Useful in a glass house, perhaps. Dangerous in a court. Camilla's eyes shifted to him. The court has proven more dangerous to truth than my language. Ivoran took one step closer to the pane. The reflected fire moved over his face like old grief returning with teeth. Was the west corridor door logged as sealed that night? He asked. Cale spread his hands. Majesty, the night Prince Soren died produced confusion. Fire protocols were shouted through smoke. Logs may be incomplete. Bring them. Cale's expression remained composed. Now? Now. A clerk hurried out. Camilla coughed once into the cloth. A small sound. Still, Ivoran heard it. He turned sharply, the old instinct in him almost faster than command. For one dangerous breath, he looked like the man who had once crossed her workshop at midnight with water before she asked. Then he stopped himself. Good. Let him remember the distance he had made. Sit, he said. Camilla lowered the cloth. Do not make concern sound like an order. His face went still. Cale used the silence. Majesty, this is exactly why the replacement panes remain necessary. Mistress Deren is unwell. Her glass responds to stress, memory, perhaps even her distress. We cannot build palace safety around a failing woman's interpretations. Camilla laughed quietly. It became a cough before she could stop it. The court saw. Cale's pity sharpened. You see the danger. Camilla straightened. Yes. A room of healthy men calling a damaged lung unreliable after breathing safely behind my windows for 20 years. The old pain brightened. Not enough to complete the memory. Enough that every removed flameglass window leaning in crates along the wall gave a low, answering hum. The military glassworkers froze. One of them whispered, They are singing. Cale turned. Stress resonance. Continue removal. A worker lifted a hooked pole toward the old pane. The flameglass flashed gold. Heat burst outward. Not full dragonfire. Worse in its precision. A sheet of furnace. Bright force that threw the hooked pole back and sent sparks across the stone. Camilla was closest. Ivoran moved. So did the window. Before he reached her, a curve of transparent flame opened between Camilla and the blast. It wrapped around her like a shield, bright gold at the edges, clear at the center, bending the heat away from her failing lungs. The court shouted. Cale's hand went to his fireblade but did not draw. Ivoran stopped an arm's length from Camilla, blocked by the flameglass shield. For the first time, his control looked wounded. It protected you, he said. Camilla looked at the transparent flame between them. It remembered who paid for its strength. The shield faded. She swayed once. Ivoran's hand lifted. She stepped back before he could touch her. Do not reach for me because the glass did what you should have done. The words struck him in public. He accepted the blow without defense, not forgiveness, but the first useful silence he had given her. The clerk returned with a heat-darkened logbook bound in red iron. West Corridor Fire Records, Majesty, Cale said. Those records were reviewed after the prince's death. By whom? Camilla asked. Cale turned toward her. By officers qualified to read emergency procedure. Officers from your command? His smile was faint. From the kingdom's command. Ivoran took the logbook himself. The leather smoked lightly under his dragon-warm fingers. He opened it to the night Prince Soren died. Several lines had blurred from heat and age. One entry remained dark, as if burned into the page from beneath. The old flameglass pane pulsed. The words sharpened. Ivoran read them aloud, voice low enough to make the whole court lean toward guilt. West Corridor door. The page blackened around the next line. West Corridor door loch, sealed from outside, before flame reached the hall. The logbook kept smoking after Ivoran closed it. A thin black thread rose from the page and curled toward the old flameglass pane, as if the record and the window had recognized the same buried heat. Cale watched both with grave patience. Emergency seals are used before flames reach a hall, he said. That is their purpose, to contain spread. Camilla stood beside the crated windows, one hand braced against the carved sill. Her lungs burned from the shield's heat, but she would not sit. Sitting would become weakness the moment Cale needed a softer word for dismissal. A seal used for containment closes against fire, she said. That door closed against breath. Cale turned to the court. This is interpretation. Mistress Deren reads emotion into heat because that night damaged all of us. All of us did not spend years breathing furnace smoke to prove the palace glass did not fail. Ivoran looked at her. Something moved in his face then. Not belief. Not yet. But the first wound in certainty. You said only the new military pains blister under dragonfire, he said. How do you know? Kael answered at once. Because she resents replacement. Camilla's eyes stayed on Ivoran. Because I tested them. The court stirred. Kael gave a careful sigh. Without authorization, without permission from the man whose glass I was testing, she said. That landed harder than she expected. Ivoran turned to Kael. You refused her access? Kael's brows lifted. To military pains before royal installation? Of course. Security law required it. Camilla laughed once, and the sound scraped her throat raw. Security law did not stop them from storing the panes beside my furnace while your men drank in the yard. A few glasshouse workers near the door lowered their eyes. Ivoran saw them. Is that true? No one spoke. Fear sat among the workers like another official seal. Camilla did not blame them. Do not ask them while Kael still controls who breathes near the palace kilns. Kael's tone cooled. You turn every silence into intimidation. No, she said. I learned to hear which silences are paid for. The old Flameglass pane answered with a low ring. Ivoran stepped toward the glasshouse workers. No worker from Sunspire Glasshouse or the military pane crew is to be removed, punished, or questioned alone tonight. Kael's expression remained composed, but his eyes sharpened. Majesty, that suggests guilt before inquiry. It suggests witnesses may speak without losing bread. Camilla looked away before gratitude could betray her. Too little. Too late. Still something. Ivoran turned back. What did your tests show? Camilla reached into the leather satchel at her side and withdrew a roll of heat-scarred vellum. Her fingers shook as she untied it. Not from fear, from breath. The room noticed. Kael noticed most. Majesty, he said gently, we are watching a woman harm herself to defend a craft already past safe use. Camilla looked at him. You do love calling sacrifice decay. She unrolled the vellum on the long table. Lines of gold, red, and black marked pane after pane. Dates, locations, flame angles, dragonfire exposure, blister marks, vent drafts. Ivoran stared. How long have you kept these? Since the first replacement pane screamed under low flame. Glass does not scream, Kael said. Camilla touched one black mark. Only to people who listen before it breaks. Ivoran's hand hovered over the vellum, careful not to touch her fingers. The restraint cut through her more cruelly than touch might have. He remembered now. He remembered the workshop rule. Never touch a cooling sheet before the glass has decided whether it will live. He had remembered that, but not her. Why did you not bring these to me? He asked. She looked up. I did. His face stilled. 3 reports, she said. 2 heat charts. 1 cracked military pane with blister marks from ordinary dragonfire. All returned through command review as furnace distortion. Kael folded his hands behind his back. Because they were unverified. They were inconvenient. They accused military supply without proof. They warned that your new panes failed where mine held. Ivoran's voice dropped. Where are the returned reports? Camilla tapped the vellum. I kept copies. Kael's faint smile returned. Copies kept by the accuser. The old pane darkened. Not fully. Just enough that a second heat shadow appeared. Camilla, alone in Sunspire Glasshouse at night, coughing into a cloth while holding a military pane over low dragon flame. The new glass blistered silver white. Beside it, one of her old Flameglass panels stayed clear as gold. The court watched her labor. In silence. Camilla did not. She looked at Ivoran. Your palace was safe because my body became the place damage went first. For once. He had no royal answer. Good. Ivoran looked from Camilla's copied heat charts to the custody stamp burned into the corner of the returned report. The old Flameglass pane gave one low ring. Not a vision. A confirmation. Bring the command custody register, Ivoran said. Cale's expression did not change. Majesty, command registers are restricted during military celebration preparations. Then the restriction can watch me read. A clerk hurried from the side archive and returned with a narrow bronze-bound ledger. His hands shook as he opened it beneath the old pane's fading glow. Ivoran did not take the book from him. Read, he said. The clerk bent over the command custody register, his finger stopping beneath the same bronze office mark burned into Camilla's returned report. His voice shook when he read. Command, seal record. Bronze seal checked out by Cale's office before Soren's death. Cale did not deny the seal had been checked out by his office. He denied that an office record named a hand. Custody is not use, he said, voice steady beneath the old Flameglass pane. A command seal moves through authorized officers during emergency preparation. It may be checked out by an office and carried by a captain, corridor warden, or fire marshal. The court accepted the shape of that answer too quickly. Camilla heard relief move through them. Relief always sounded the same when powerful men found a technical word large enough to hide inside. Ivoran stood with the bronze-bound register open before him. Who signed it out? Cale inclined his head toward the clerk. Read the line properly. The clerk swallowed. Checked out under West Command Preparation Authority. That is not a name, Camilla said. Cale turned to her. Because emergency systems do not depend on one man's memory. No, she said. They depend on one officer's silence. A few officers shifted near the western arch. Cale did not look at them. That was how Camilla knew he had trained them well. Ivoran looked from the register to the old pane. Who returned the seal? The clerk scanned the line. Returned under same authority after fire containment. Condition? The clerk hesitated. Cale's voice softened. Majesty, after a royal death, records were damaged, incomplete, and handled under grief pressure. Condition, Ivoran repeated. Clean, the clerk whispered. Camilla's fingers tightened on the edge of the table. A bronze command seal touched a burning latch and returned clean. Cale gave a restrained sigh. If it was used before full flame contact, yes. Then ask why the door sealed before the flame reached it. The old Flameglass pane made no sound. Good. Camilla did not need it to speak every time. She needed the room to learn how to listen. Cale moved into the silence with perfect timing. Majesty, may I remind the court that Mistress Deren has now supplied copies, interpretations, and memory glass, all connected to her own dismissed workshop. Her motive is clear. Camilla looked at him. Say it plainly. Very well. Cale faced the court. She feared replacement. She tested military panes without authority. She kept private copies. She now uses grief over Prince Soren to undermine the celebration and force restoration of her contract. A low murmur rolled through Sunspire Court. There it was. Not an accusation of murder. Something easier to believe. An aging craftswoman trying to regain her place. Ivoran's eyes cut toward Camilla. For one breath, the old wound reopened. He was looking for proof again, and some part of him still expected her to provide it, while bleeding dignity onto the floor. Camilla lifted her chin. If I wanted my position back, I would flatter the king, not make him look foolish before his soldiers. A few courtiers inhaled. Ivoran did not flinch. That almost made it worse. Cale said, bitterness can dress itself as courage. Camilla turned to him. And treason can dress itself as protocol. The hall went sharp. Cale's hand rested near his fireblade. Careful. No, Ivoran said. One word. The room stopped. Cale looked at him. Majesty? She will speak without threat. The words were right. They arrived late. Camilla did not thank him. Ivoran turned to the glasshouse table. You said her old pains hold, and the new military pains blister. We test both. Camilla's breath caught. Not from illness, from anger. You are testing me again. I am testing the glass. You still do not know the difference. That struck him harder than if she had raised her voice. Kael stepped forward. A public flame test is wise. Let fire answer craft. Camilla looked at the workers standing near the crates. Some had built her old pains. Some had been hired into Kael's military workshop because hunger did not ask if pride approved the wage. Then no worker holds the pain, she said. Kael smiled faintly. Mistress Deren continues setting conditions, because men keep designing tests where working hands pay for royal doubt. Ivoran looked to the captain. No worker holds the pain. Iron stands. Distance markers. Priest witness. Kael bowed. As your majesty commands. 2 panes were set upright in the center of the hall. One old flameglass panel from Camilla's western corridor work. Uneven, gold-veined, clear as captured sunset. One new military pane. Smooth, flawless, coldly perfect. Ivoran stepped before them. Dragonfire gathered in his throat, bright under his skin. Camilla remembered teaching him how not to choke on smoke. The memory was cruel enough to feel alive. He looked at her once before, breathing flame. Not asking forgiveness. Not yet. Asking whether he was about to destroy more than glass. She gave him nothing. He released a controlled ribbon of dragonfire. It struck both panes evenly. The old flameglass drank the flame gold and held. The new military pane blistered white at the center, then warped inward as if heat had found a weakness it had been waiting for. The court erupted. Kael lifted his voice over them. A manufacturing flaw in one pane. Camilla said, "Bring another." Ivoran did. Then another. Then a third. Each new military pane blistered under ordinary royal flame. Each old flameglass pane held. Kael's expression remained disciplined. This proves replacement quality must be reviewed. It does not prove murder, conspiracy, or intent. No, Camilla said, coughing once into her cloth. It proves you made him afraid of the wrong glass. Ivoran's eyes closed briefly. When they opened, he looked older. Bring the emergency protocol notes from the night Soren died, he said. Kael's voice went colder. Majesty, those contain royal movement records. My brother's final corridor is not your private property. The clerk brought a narrow packet sealed in black firewax. Ivoran broke it himself. Inside, one note had been copied cleanly into military script. No smoke damage. No trembling hand. Too clean for a night of chaos. The clerk read under command. Emergency protocol note. West corridor reported clear before Prince Soren entered. The protocol note looked too clean to belong to a fire. That was what made Ivoran stare. Not the words alone. Not yet. The ink itself had the neatness of a room untouched by panic, copied in steady military script, while the rest of his memory of that night was smoke, screaming, and the smell of burned cedar from his brother's door. Camilla saw the realization begin in him. She did not rescue him from it. Kael stood beneath the old flame-glass pane, with his hands clasped behind his back. A corridor may be reported clear before a prince enters it, Majesty. Royal movement changes during emergency. Soren may have ignored evacuation direction. Ivoran's eyes lifted slowly. My brother did not ignore fire protocol. Grief spoke before command could smooth it. The court heard. So did Camilla. For one painful breath, she saw not the Dragon King, but the young prince who had come to her glass house after the funeral and stood among the cooling panes. Because heat was the only language left in him, Kael softened his voice. No one wishes to blame him, but records exist to prevent grief from rewriting disaster. Camilla looked at him. Records also exist to make sure disaster is written by the right hand. Kael turned to her. And you presume that hand is mine? No, she said. I presume the hand that copied this note knew smoke does not write so neatly. The clerk holding the packet swallowed. Ivoran looked at the note again. Who authored the clear report? The clerk searched the lower line. West Command Watch. That is not a name. Cale's answer came smooth. Watch reports carry office authority, not personal signature, during active emergencies. Convenient, Camilla said. Efficient, Kyle corrected. Efficiency is what powerful men call missing names. A flameglass shard in one of the crates gave a low, soft ring. Not a vision, only agreement. Ivoran turned toward the workers gathered near the removed panes. Seal every replacement record from Cale's military workshop. Purchase orders, installation lists, heat tests, glass batch notes, and fire safety reports. Cale's expression remained grave. Majesty, tomorrow's celebration depends on those panes. Then tomorrow depends on records I can trust. A quiet shock moved through the court. It was not restoration. Note accusation. It was a king choosing delay over the appearance of certainty. Camilla folded one hand over her chest as a cough threatened. Ivoran noticed immediately. He did not move toward her. Good. Instead, he turned to the captain. No glassworker from Sunspire or the military workshop is to be dismissed, questioned alone, or denied wages during inquiry. Cale inclined his head. You already protected the workers, then hear it twice. Camilla looked away. The ache in her chest had nothing to do with smoke. Cale saw the shift and pressed. Majesty, with respect, these protections create the appearance that my command is under suspicion based on unstable craft memory and unauthorized copies. Ivoran's jaw hardened. Your new panes failed under my flame. A supply flaw, not treason. Your office seal was checked out before my brother died. Custody, not use. The west corridor was reported clear before Soren entered. Procedure, not murder. Camilla said softly. He has a clean word for every dirty thing. Cale's eyes cut to her. Ivoran heard. His gaze did not leave the general. Open the original west corridor pane records. Cale stilled for half a breath. The old fire records? Yes. Those were reviewed. By your office. By emergency command. Which you led. The words, did not accuse. They arranged. That made them more dangerous. A palace archivist hurried forward with a long copper case. Inside lay thin heat-etched sheets copied from Flameglass after Prince Soren's death. Camilla remembered making those transfers with shaking hands while Ivoran stood outside the room and refused to watch the night replay in fragments. The archivist placed the first sheet under the old pane. Nothing happened. Cale's face eased. Camilla said, Wrong side. The archivist blinked. Mistress? Flameglass remembers from the heat-facing side. You are showing it the court side. Cale gave a faint smile. A technicality. A door also has two sides, she said. Apparently that mattered. Ivoran looked at the archivist. Turn it. The sheet was turned. The old flameglass pane darkened again. A heat shadow moved across its surface, weaker than before, but clear enough. A figure of royal heat, taller than the guards, moving toward the west corridor. Prince Soren's outline, not his face, not his voice, only the heat his body had left in the glass. Ivoran's breath stopped. Camilla heard it. She wished she had not. The heat shadow reached the corridor mouth. Behind him, smoke pulled backward, not up, not out, backward, toward the sealed door. Ivoran whispered. That is not draft behavior. No, Camilla said. It is guided air. Cale spoke at once. Old flame memory may warp after years of exposure. Camilla looked at him. Then ask why the new panes warp under one breath while mine remember after 7 years. Ivoran closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, something in him had broken past denial into cost. Remove Cale's command from the replacement installation, he said. The court erupted. Kael's head turned sharply. Majesty. Temporarily, Ivoran said. Until the inquiry clears the records. A public suspension before the military celebration will fracture command confidence. My brother died behind a door your office recorded clear, Ivoran said. Confidence can wait. Camilla held herself still. She would not forgive him because he had finally said the obvious in a voice that sounded like pain. Ivoran turned to her. What record comes next? She met his eyes. Do not ask me like I am back in service. His face tightened. I know you are not, do you? She asked. Because men often remember a woman's skill before they remember what they did to her. He accepted that without answer. Good. She pointed to the copper case. Ventilation maps. The smoke moved wrong. If the corridor was clear and the door sealed before flame arrived, then air had to be forced. Kael's calm cooled. Ventilation maps are structural, not military. Camilla looked at him. Then you should not fear them. Ivoran turned to the archivist. Bring the West Tower ventilation plans from the week Soren died. The archivist hesitated, then looked at Kael. Again. Ivoran saw it this time. Bring them, he said, before I ask why the archive waits for a general's permission. The plans arrived in a flat iron folder. A red wax strip sealed the edge. Not royal wax. Military bronze. The archivist opened it with trembling hands. Inside, the top map had been scraped clean at the West Tower draft line. Beneath the scrape, heat began to rise. The old Flameglass pane gave one low ring. The map darkened around a hidden attachment note. West Tower ventilation file. Emergency draft change attached to command review. The hidden attachment note did not burn through the map. It breathed. A thin line of heat moved beneath the scraped West Tower draft, traveling backward through the ink, as if the palace itself remembered air being forced the wrong way. Ivoran stared at the ventilation file. For the first time that day, no one in Sunspire Court pretended the room was cold. Kael spoke before fear learned a shape. Command review does not mean command alteration. Military officers review ventilation during celebrations, sieges, and royal emergencies. Camilla looked at the map. The night Soren died was not a celebration. Kael turned to her. No, it was chaos, which is why ordinary safeguards were reviewed afterward. Afterward? She asked. The word was soft. So soft. Ivoran heard the danger in it. What do you see? Camilla pointed to the scraped draft line without touching the paper. This mark was not added after the fire. It was burned into the map before heat damage spread. See the edge? Smoke darkens paper unevenly. Furnace correction burns clean. The archivist bent closer, then went pale. She is right, Majesty. Kael's eyes narrowed. Archivists are not fire engineers. No, Camilla said. But paper burns honestly when men do not scrape it first. Ivoran looked at her. You knew. It was not accusation. Not yet. But it carried the old pain of a king discovering another door had been closed while he was grieving. Camilla's chest tightened. I suspected. When? 3 months after Soren's death. The words landed hard. The court stirred. Kael seized the movement. There. She admits withholding a suspicion concerning a royal death. Camilla turned toward him. I submitted it. Ivoran's gaze sharpened. To whom? To emergency command review. Kael's expression remained smooth. My office received many grief claims after the prince's accident. It was not a grief claim, she said. It was a heat report, written by the glassblower whose pains failed to save him. The cruelty was clean enough to pass as fact. Camilla felt it enter the room. She did not let it enter her posture. My pains held, she said. The air did not. The old Flameglass pane gave a low ring. Only one. A correction, not a performance. Ivoran stepped toward the map. Show me. She hesitated, not because she feared the truth, because showing him meant standing close enough to remember the man who had once trusted her breath over palace physicians. He noticed the hesitation and stopped halfway. "From there?" he said. "Good." He was learning not to take space before earning it. Camilla lifted one shaking hand. "The west tower should pull smoke up through 3 crown vents. Flame rises. Heat climbs. That corridor was designed to clear itself toward the high shaft." The archivist nodded. "Original plan confirms it." Camilla pointed to the scraped attachment. This change reversed the lower draft. It would pull smoke sideways toward the west corridor door. Ivoran's face emptied. Camilla continued. "Because stopping would make the dead wait longer. If Soren entered after the corridor was reported clear, and the door sealed from outside before flame reached him, the reversed draft would carry smoke behind him while the fire stayed ahead." Kale's voice cut in. "Speculation." "No," she said. "Craft. Craft cannot name murder. Neither can command silence. Yet you have trusted that for 7 years." The hall held still. Ivoran looked at KL. "Who approved the draft change?" KL bowed his head. "Majesty, emergency modifications pass through multiple hands. That is not an answer. It is the truthful one. Structural officers, military wardens, palace engineers, names." Kale's pause was almost nothing, but Camilla had spent her life reading near-invisible fractures. So had the glass. A faint gold line crawled along the old pane. No picture formed, only pressure. KL said, "The attachment should bear an authorization tag." The archivist turned the map over. There was none, only a scraped rectangle where wax had been removed. Camilla coughed into her cloth before she could stop it. The sound tore through her chest and left black flecks on the fabric. Ivoran saw them. His hand closed at his side. He did not reach. He did not command her to sit. He only turned to the nearest guard. "Bring water. And a chair if she asks for one." Camilla's eyes flicked to him. He understood that much, at least. Kyle spoke over the quiet. "Majesty, her health is worsening. This inquiry is becoming unsafe for her." Camilla lowered the cloth. "Do not use my lungs as a curtain. I am concerned. You are cornered." A murmur passed through the court. Ivoran looked at the archivist. "Was there a copy of the attachment before the wax was removed?" The archivist swallowed. "There should be a draft ledger." "Bring it," Kale said. "Draft ledgers are unreliable." Camilla gave him a tired smile. "Only when they survive you." The draft ledger arrived bound in heat-stiffened leather. The archivist opened to the week of Soren's death. The first 2 pages listed normal vent inspections. The third had been cut nearly to the spine. "Not torn." "Good." Ivoran's voice lowered. "Who removed the page?" The archivist whispered. "No removal logged, Majesty." Kyle said. "Old ledgers decay." Camilla stepped closer to the old flameglass pane and lifted her burned fingers toward its edge, not touching, only offering heat. "I kept a rubbing," she said. The court shifted. Ivoran turned to her. "Of the missing page?" "Yes." Kale's composure tightened. "Unauthorized copying of military structural plans is a serious offense." Camilla met his eyes. "So is altering air around a prince." Silence. Then Ivoran said, "Where is the rubbing?" "In Sunspire Glasshouse, hidden behind the final pane I ever made for this palace." The old flameglass window darkened at the edges, as if it knew the pain she meant. Ivoran looked at the missing ledger page, then at Camilla. What did the rubbing say? Her breath came rough, but her voice did not. West Tower ventilation was changed before the fire alarm. The old pane rang once. The missing page mark burned brighter. Then letters surfaced in the ledger's cut spine. Ventilation draft change. West Tower airflow reversed before first fire alarm. The cut spine of the ledger kept glowing after the words faded. No one called it proof. Not allowed. Proof was a dangerous word, in a court where men had survived 7 years by calling murder smoke, calling smoke accident, calling a woman's ruined lungs professional decline. Cale stood beside the ventilation map, with both hands folded behind his back. A reversed airflow draft may have been an emergency correction, he said. If engineers feared flames spread, they may have redirected smoke to protect the upper tower. Camilla looked at him. By sending it toward a sealed royal door? By following procedure in confusion. Confusion has become very loyal to you. The court shifted. Ivoran did not smile. He looked at the cut ledger page, the map, the old Flameglass, then Camilla. You said the rubbing is hidden in Sunspire Glasshouse. Yes. Then we go there. No. The word struck harder than any pain cracking. Ivoran turned fully toward her. Cale's eyes sharpened. Camilla drew the cloth from her mouth slowly. There were dark flecks on it now. She folded it inward before the court could study what the palace had cost her. No? Ivoran asked. You do not get to walk into my glass house because your palace finally ran out of lies. His jaw tightened. Camilla, that rubbing may prove what happened to Soren. It may, she said, and I will not have it handled by the same court that removed my windows while I was coughing from their making. Cale stepped in smoothly. Majesty, refusal at this stage becomes obstruction. Camilla turned to him. That word is always ready when a woman stops being useful. Ivoran's voice lowered. I am not trying to use you. She looked at him then, and the old hurt opened in her chest sharper than smoke. You dismissed me in front of men who learned my craft by breathing safely behind it. You let him call my lungs weakness. You ordered my windows taken down before asking why the new ones failed. Now you want my final pain, because it may save the memory of your brother. His face changed. She did not stop. Do not dress that as trust. The old Flameglass pain gave one low ring. Not evidence. Witness. Cale glanced toward it, then back to the room. Majesty, the military celebration cannot wait while Mistress Deren negotiates dignity. Camilla laughed once. It hurt. That is exactly what my lungs have been doing for 20 years. Waiting until the palace was ready to admit dignity had a cost. Ivoran looked toward the crated windows. No one enters Sunspire Glasshouse without her consent. Cale bowed faintly. Then the kingdom's inquiry rests in private hands. No, Camilla said. It rests where the truth was left after public hands refused it. Ivoran took a step toward her, stopped. The distance between them felt like a third person in the hall. What will you do? He asked. Go home. You may not be safe. I was not safe here. That answer silenced him. Good. She turned toward the side doors. No guards moved. Perhaps Ivoran had finally understood that protection did not always mean standing in front of a woman. Sometimes it meant letting the door stay open behind her. At the threshold, his voice followed. Camilla. She stopped, for a breath. She wanted him to say the one thing that would not fix anything, but might at least prove he knew what had broken. He did not. Instead, he said, What happens if the celebration uses Cale's pains? She closed her eyes. Of course. Still the palace. Still the danger. Still everyone else's survival first. When she turned back, her expression had cooled into something older than pain. Then keep dragonfire away from them, Cale said. That is impossible during a military celebration. Then postpone it. A ripple went through the court like scandal. Cale's voice hardened politely. Postponing a victory rite on a dismissed glassblower's warning would disgrace the army. Camilla looked at Ivoran. Better a disgraced army than a burning hall. Ivoran held her gaze. This time, he did not look to Cale first. Celebration fire rites are suspended, he said. The court erupted. Cale's face remained controlled, but cold entered his eyes. Majesty, the troops expect royal flame at sunset. If you deny them, rumor will decide why. Then rumor can begin with my caution. Camilla felt the words land. They were right. They were late. She left before late could pretend to be enough. Sunspire Glasshouse stood below the palace cliff, half cut into black volcanic stone, half built of panes Camilla had shaped with her own breath. By the time she reached it, dusk had bruised the sky purple, and every step had become a negotiation with her lungs. Inside, the furnace was cold. That was wrong. A glasshouse should never feel abandoned by heat. She placed one hand on the doorframe and listened. No workers, no tools, only the faint ringing of the final pane hidden behind the west kiln wall. "Not yet," she whispered. Behind her, far above, the palace began to darken. One window at first, then another. Not the old Flameglass, the new military panes. Across Sunspire Palace, the replacement glass turned black from the inside, swallowing sunset before it could enter the celebration hall. A messenger reached the glasshouse breathless and terrified. "Mistress Deren," he gasped. "The palace windows. I know. They are not reflecting the sunset." Camilla looked up at the palace she had protected until her own breath failed. "No," she said. "They are remembering what they cannot survive." Above the royal celebration hall, every new pane blistered in silence. Then the largest one split across its center. Not outward, inward, toward the throne. The split in the celebration window did not fall outward. It bent inward like a burning blade, aimed at the throne. Ivoran saw it before the court understood danger had entered the hall without a door. The new military pane above the royal dais, blackened from its center, blistered white around the edges, then bowed toward the place his crown would have stood at sunset. "Clear the hall," he said. Kyle stepped forward. "Majesty, a visible evacuation before the troops gather will create panic." The glass groaned again. Ivoran turned on him. "Then let panic be more useful than pride." Guards moved. Nobles stumbled backward from the tables. Officers shouted for order, but order had begun to sound like another name for staying until glass chose who deserved to bleed. A young military glassworker reached for a cracked support hook. "No," Ivoran said. The boy froze. "No worker touches those panes," Ivoran continued. "Iron braces only. Distance lines. Clear the lower benches first." Kyle's voice stayed polished. "These are my workshop's panes. My men know how to handle them. Your men installed glass that bends toward my throne. A heat reaction under unusual stress. A failure," Ivoran said. "Use the shorter word." For the first time, several officers looked away from KL before he allowed it. That mattered. Not enough. Ivoran knew that now. The largest pane cracked again. A dark seam raced across the glass, but the old Flameglass transoms above the side arches remained gold and clear, watching like tired witnesses who had warned the palace until their maker's lungs failed. Ivoran looked at them and felt shame move under his skin, hotter than dragonfire. Camilla had told him, only the new military panes blister. Minhold. He had asked the general who ordered them, not the woman who made survival possible. "Seal the celebration hall," Ivoran said. "No fire rites, no military demonstration, no dragon flame within the palace until every replacement pane is removed or braced." Kale's jaw tightened. "You would cancel the victory rite? I would rather disappoint living soldiers than honor them under glass," I did not question. A silence followed. Then a low ring sounded from the old Flameglass above the side arch. Not praise, correction, accepted. Ivoran turned to the captain. "Suspend General Kale Dornus from all authority over palace glass, celebration guard placement, fire protocol, ventilation access, and military pane records until this inquiry is complete." Kale bowed his head very slowly. "Majesty, removing my command on the eve of public celebration will be read as accusation." "No," Ivoran said. "It will be read as the first door I should have opened 7 years ago." The words cost him. The room felt it. Kale's calm became colder. "And if Mistress Deren refuses to cooperate, she is not under command." She holds the only hidden rubbing. She holds what my court refused to protect. The answer landed among the courtiers with uncomfortable weight. Ivoran looked toward the lower glassworkers, some from Sunspire, some from KL's military shop, all of them watching men with titles decide whether their hands were evidence or expendable tools. No glassworker is to be dismissed, detained, questioned alone, or blamed for obeying orders from military command. He said, "Every worker who handled replacement panes will be named as witness, not suspect, unless evidence says otherwise." One woman near the crates pressed both hands to her mouth. Ivoran recognized the gesture. The body's first response when safety arrived too late. "Open the ventilation files," he ordered. "All of them. West Tower, Celebration Hall, military modifications, command review copies, draft ledgers." KL said, "That will expose royal structural vulnerabilities. My brother died behind one." No one argued after that. The archivists worked in frightened silence. Map cases were unlocked. Bronze seals were broken. Ventilation plans spread across the emptied feast tables, their lines of draft and heat looking suddenly less like architecture and more like testimony. Ivoran stood over them without sitting. The old habit of command wanted answers fast. Camilla's voice from memory corrected him. "Heat lies when rushed. Let it show where it wants to go." He closed his eyes once, then opened them. "Mark every file touched by command review," he said. "Separate originals from copies. Check which maps were scraped, rewritten, or sealed after Soren's death." The chief archivist bowed. "Yes, Majesty." "And send to Sunspire Glasshouse." The clerk lifted his pen. "Not a summons," Ivoran said. The clerk paused. "A request," Ivoran continued. "Tell Camilla Deren the celebration is suspended. KL's glass authority is removed. The workers are protected, and the ventilation files are open." KL gave a faint, bitter smile. "Will you ask her to return?" Ivoran looked toward the cracked military pane above the throne. "No," he said. "Tell her I will not ask her to save a court that discarded her breath." The clerk's pen scratched across the page. Ivoran's voice roughened despite him. "Tell her I am asking what must be made safe before truth can enter without being used." The old Flameglass windows gave no answer. Good. Repair did not deserve applause. Far below the palace cliff, in Sunspire Glasshouse, Camilla stood before the final pane, hidden behind the west kiln wall, when the message arrived. She read it once, then again. Her breath caught. Not from smoke this time. Behind her. The final masterpiece began to glow. It showed no face, no door, only a vast circle of molten gold, wider than any palace window, and a single instruction burning through the glass. Make a lens large enough for everyone. Camilla lit the cold furnace with both hands shaking, not from fear, from breath. The Sunspire Glasshouse had been quiet too long. Furnaces were meant to breathe like beasts in sleep, steady and dangerous, never dead. When the first flame took beneath the crucible, orange light crawled over the walls and woke 20 years of soot from the stones. The final pane stood behind the west kiln wall, wrapped in ashcloth. Her last masterpiece. She had made it after Ivoran's first year as king, when he still came to the glass house alone, and watched her work as if every spark held a language he wanted to learn. He had never asked for that pain. She had made it anyway, too large for any palace frame, too clear for ordinary light, a circle of flame glass meant to gather heat truth from every window it faced. She had once thought to give it to him. Now she would break it for witnesses. Elsa from the glass crew, thin, dark-haired, one burn scar across her wrist, stood near the furnace. "Mistress Deren, you do not have to do this yourself." Camilla smiled without softness. "That is what courts say right before they take a woman's work from her hands." Elsa lowered her eyes. "Then tell us where to stand." That was better. By sunset, The truth lens entered Sunspire Palace on an iron cradle pulled by glassworkers, not guards. Camilla walked beside it, slowly, every breath measured, every step watched. Sunspire Court had been emptied of celebration tables and filled instead with workers, glassblowers, furnace boys, polishers, military pane loaders, vent cleaners, archivists, the people whose hands had held the palace together while men with titles argued over what counted as proof. Ivoran stood below the throne dais, not on it. Kyle Dorner stood to one side under temporary guard, still composed, still wearing command like a second skin, even after command had been stripped from him. His eyes moved to the molten gold circle beneath the ashcloth. "A spectacle," he said. "How fitting." Camilla stopped. A spectacle is what kings use when they want applause. A witness is what remains when applause would be indecent. A murmur moved through the workers. Ivoran stepped forward, then stopped the moment she looked at him. "Good." He remembered the distance. "You came," he said. "I brought glass," she answered. "Do not confuse the two." Pain crossed his face. He did not ask her to ease it. "Better." Camilla turned to the workers. "Are they recorded?" The chief clerk lifted a ledger. "All glassworkers present by trade." "No." The words sharpened the room. "By name," Camilla said. "A trade can be blamed. A name can testify." Ivoran turned to the clerk. "By name?" Camilla did not let him keep the moment. "And not behind the officers?" Cale's mouth curved faintly. "You would have furnace workers stand before military command?" "Yes," Camilla said. "The people who breathed the smoke should stand closer to the truth than the men who signed the air." Ivoran looked at the court, then at the rows of workers. "Move the officers back." The order took several breaths to obey. That was useful too. Everyone saw which bodies the room resisted making space for. Only when Elsa, old Taran the vent cleaner, 3 military pane loaders, and the Sunspire glass crew stood before the court did Camilla touch the ashcloth. Ivoran's voice lowered. "Camilla, what does the lens need?" She looked at him. "Permission from no king." He absorbed the answer, then asked again correctly. "What must we not interfere with?" That reached her, not as forgiveness, as proof that learning could begin after failure. "No one touches the glass," she said. "No soldier handles the heat frame. No officer interprets the memory before the workers see it. If I fall, Elsa speaks for the glasshouse." Cale's eyes cooled. "Preparing a successor for a performance does not make it law." Camilla turned toward him. "No, but it makes it harder for you to call one woman's lungs the problem." The old Flameglass windows along the hall gave a low ring. Ivoran faced the court. "Her terms stand." Camilla drew off the ashcloth. The final pane caught the dying sun and became a circle of liquid gold. A sound moved through the hall, not awe exactly, not yet. More like shame discovering beauty had been built by someone it had dismissed. Camilla took the furnace rod from Elsa and touched it to the pane's lower rim. Ivoran's entire body tensed. He knew what melting meant. "You are destroying it," he said. "No," Camilla answered. "I am changing what it is allowed to serve." The rim softened. Gold light ran downward in threads. The final masterpiece sagged inside its iron cradle, then opened like a slow-burning eye. Heat rolled across the hall, but the old flame-glass windows caught it and bent it away from the workers. Camilla coughed once. "Heart." Elsa moved toward her. Camilla lifted one hand. "Not yet." She pressed the rod deeper into the molten rim. The truth lens widened. Every palace window facing the hall brightened in answer. Old flame glass, replacement panes, cracked transoms. Even the blistered military glass still braced above the empty throne. One by one, they turned toward the lens. Cale's calm finally thinned. Only slightly. Enough. The lens filled with darkness first, then heat. Then the west corridor from the night Prince Soren died appeared inside the molten gold. Smoke dragged backward along the floor. A royal heat shadow entered the hall. The door ahead of him was still open. Camilla whispered, "Watch the air." The lens answered with a line of fire across its rim. West corridor memory aligned, full palace witness ready. The truth lens did not show Prince Soren's face. Flameglass had never promised mercy. It showed heat instead. The shape of a living body moving through the west corridor, the outline of a prince walking toward a door that should have opened. Across Sunspire Palace, every window turned gold. Not one, all of them. Old flameglass panes, cracked military panes, high transoms above the throne. Even the narrow stair windows servants had cleaned for years without being asked what smoke did in a closed passage. Every surface became witness. Kyle Dornus looked at the windows, then at the court, and chose procedure. Heat memory cannot identify motive, he said, nor can it name a hand. Camilla stood beside the molten lens, one palm braced on the iron cradle. Her breath dragged through her chest like glass over stone, but her voice remained steady. Then we will ask it what heat touched. The lens brightened. Inside the west corridor memory, smoke pulled backward along the floor. The royal heat shadow paused before the door, to the side. A second heat shape appeared. Not a face. A body in military armor, hotter at the right hand where bronze had held flame. The hand lifted a command seal. Kael said. Many officers carried seals. Camilla did not look at him. Watch the vents. Above the memory. 3 crown vents glowed red. One by one, they closed. Not from heat collapse, by command mechanism. Then a lower draft opened beneath the door, dragging smoke toward the prince's lungs while the fire still burned beyond the hall. Ivoran's face went white beneath the ember crown. The air was turned against him, he said. No one answered. There was nothing left in the room brave enough to soften it. The lens widened. Every palace window now showed the same moment from different angles. The door sealed from outside. The vents reversed. The command seal pressed to the latch. Smoke driven where escape should have been. Then the final memory opened. A military officer stepped from the heat shadow into the west service passage after the door had sealed. His face remained blurred, as flameglass law required, but his fireblade did not. Ceremonial black bronze, dragonbone grip, 3 red bands beneath the guard, the exact blade hanging at Kael Dornus's side. A sound passed through the court, slow and terrible. Kael's expression did not collapse. It hardened. A general's blade, maybe carried by aides during emergency. Camilla turned to him at last. Then call the aide who carried yours while Prince Soren died. Silence answered. Ivoran did not look away from the blade in the memory. Name him. Kael's jaw tightened. Majesty, name the officer who carried your fireblade, sealed my brother's door, and reversed the west tower air. Kael's eyes moved once toward the windows. The truth lens flared. A final line of heat wrote itself across every pane in the palace. Command seal, west vent mechanism, and General's fireblade registered in same heat event. The court broke open, not into chaos, into recognition. Glassworkers wept without hiding it. Soldiers stared at the general they had honored. Courtiers stepped back from Kael, as if protocol had finally lost its perfume. Ivoran faced his guards. General Kael Dornus is stripped of command and placed under royal arrest for conspiracy in Prince Soren's death, falsification of emergency records, and endangering the palace through fraudulent replacement pains. Kael lifted his chin. You will ruin military confidence. No, Ivoran said. You used confidence as a locked door. The guards took Kael's fireblade first. That was when his calm finally broke. Not in fear, in fury. His eyes found Camilla. All this from a woman who could barely stand. Camilla stepped closer to the lens, its gold light washing the soot from the lines of her face. No, she said. All this from a woman who kept breathing after men like you decided breath was disposable. The Flameglass windows rang, every pane in the palace, one clean sound. Ivoran turned from Kale to the court, then to the workers standing before the officers. "Record this before any arrest record is written," he said. Camilla Deren's Flameglass did not fail Prince Soren. Her warnings were dismissed. Her reports were returned. Her failing lungs were used as an excuse to remove the woman who had paid for this palace's safety with her body. Camilla closed her eyes. For one moment, she let the words reach her. Not because they healed everything. Because they were public, and the wound had been public. Ivoran continued, voice rougher now. "The Sunspire glasshouse will not return to royal service under old terms. New ventilation law begins tonight. No glassworker serves a royal furnace without clean draft, healer inspection, paid recovery, and the right to refuse unsafe fire. The replacement panes will be removed. The Flameglass records will be preserved under glassworker witness, not military command." He looked at Camilla. "I should have investigated before I dismissed you." "Yes," she said. "I should have believed the woman who taught me how to breathe through smoke. Yes, I have no right to ask what remains between us." "No," Camilla said. "You do not." The answer hurt him. He let it. That mattered more than any apology would have. The truth lens cooled slowly, shrinking back into a circle of clear gold. Around the palace, the windows faded from memory to evening light. The court remained standing in the aftermath of what it had been forced to see. Camilla touched the edge of the lens. Her final masterpiece was no longer a gift she had never given. It was a law the court could not unsee. Ivoran stopped several steps away. "What will you choose?" She looked toward the glassworkers first, then the open windows. Then the king who had once made her believe her work had a home in him, and who would now have to build that home in law before asking for her heart. "I will rebuild Sunspire Glasshouse," she said. "Not as your servant, not as your wounded relic. As master of flame safety, with my workers named beside me. It is yours." "No," she said. "It is ours. That is the lesson you keep almost learning." A faint, broken smile touched his mouth. Not triumph. Understanding. Camilla took one slow breath. It hurt. It was hers. "When the new vents are built," she said, "come to the glass house, without a crown." Ivoran bowed his head. "And if you do not open the door, then you will stand outside and learn what closed doors cost." He accepted that too. Camilla walked out beside the glassworkers, the truth lens cooling behind her, and every palace window clear at last. Above Sunspire Palace, sunset entered through Flameglass without burning. For the first time in 7 years, the light came in clean.